everyone, and welcome to WhatCulture Wrestling. My name is Jules Gill, and I'm joined by the only man who I would let grease himself up and slide inside my ring. It is Adam Clery.
You weren't really sure where to go with that one, were you?
Well, I wasn't sure if I'd get instantly demonetized by saying it, so
the only man who I'd let grease himself up, and you bottled that.
I did want to overstep the line, mate. Anyway, speaking of grappling news, we are here today on the Wrestling Channel because this is the thing. Adam and I, we both like our wrestling games. We are both fans of Here Comes the Pain. I'm pretty sure you had SmackDown 2?
I had all of them because I didn't go outside when I was that age.
And this is the thing. We've watched the entire series of WWE games kind of circle the drain for a couple of years now. It kind of started going downhill around 2013. But here's some good news. That is that WWE 2K21 has been cancelled.
What?
Yeah,
you mean after the critical financial and cultural mega piece that was WWE 2K20, they're not renewing this franchise for another bold adventure?
I mean, it's a huge surprise. It really, really is. I mean, I have to feel for the developers.
I'm just glad I'm sitting down, Jules. Right, that's all I can say.
Well, I mean, this thing. Did you ever play 2K20?
I was on that initial week or so of when it came out, and I thought there is no way it is as bad as it's been made out to be. There is no way it is as glitchy and as buggy as all these many videos on Twitter are implying it is. There is no way it can be the disaster I'm being told it is. And then I had to go on it. And I successfully made my entrance. I think who was I playing as? I can't remember now. It's Daniel Bryan. Made my entrance, got all my yeses in, and then when I went to do a yes taunt in the ring, he fell through the ring. And every couple of seconds, all you saw jutting out from the mat was these little fingers just going up and up like that. And I was like, this is perfect. I actually really like this.
Well, this is the thing, like, if you ever played the WWE Raw game that was on the original Xbox, that kind of made being broken at fun, whereas this was just broken and not fun. People were laughing at it, but they were very annoyed that they spent upwards of like $90 on it for like the collector's edition. But this is the thing, when you're building on a game like that, the developers were not put into a good position because Ukes obviously walked away. They handed over the code to another team to finish off, and they rushed to get it done. And it definitely showed. But the problem is, it was before all of this happened. They've just been building on a game that is basically like an empire of sand. It's completely like eroding, and the more weight that they're putting on it with these extra graphical updates, but not fixing the core root problems, it was just making those situations worse. And that is a huge problem of annualizing any sort of game. You'll see it in like FIFA games and stuff like that. But I
think it was one of those situations where I think once all the information came out about the development, a lot of people were still annoyed at the money they'd spent and gone to waste, but were quite understanding of the situation. Like the way the game had been put together, the story about it being developed, precisely what they had to work with at the time, it was never ever going to make for a good game. But then there was the small decisions and things they'd chosen to do which were also terrible. Like the story mode was so hokey and lame, and just all the stuff they kind of lumped on top of the game to try and disguise the bad mechanics in it, which is, oh god, no. The only way I can think to describe it is like feeling a bit under the weather as you go to a garden party, so just dressing yourself up in sick anyway.
Yeah, that's a very apt way of doing it. And the thing is,
of course he was sick. Did you not see his shirt? It was covered in sick. It was fine.
But this is the thing, like, so 2K saying that they're not going to make a 2K21 this year is actually coming with a sense of relief, because this will actually allow them to adjust to a lot of problems that fans have been leveling at them. They'll be able to address the issues with the horrible predatory microtransactions that have been spamming all the way through their other titles as well. This should, in theory, give them time to actually repair all the damage done. However, Adam, do you want to hit them with the caveat?
The caveat to all of this is they are still going to produce a game, and given everything they've got to work with and the time they've got to turn it around in, all they can really do is use the existing engine of a wrestling game. Ergo, the thing they end up making will be a wrestling game, or at the very least something not wrestling related which plays exactly like a wrestling game. This is a story wrapped within a disaster, wrapped within a problem, wrapped within a head scratcher, because precisely why this is the thing. Even if 2K21 was terrible, people would still buy it because there is an existing market there is an existing audience for the 2K wrestling franchise. So what they're doing is, they're effectively getting rid of their only bankable, marketable asset in all this, and still going to put out a game. I don't think I've ever heard of this before, ever.
Well, a couple of, I think it was actually last year in May, Yuke's said that they were internally developing a game that was going to be a sort of competitor, because they said that there's no other competitor in the market, and that's why their games have become stagnant. Now, obviously, Yuke's aren't the people that are heading up the 2K development team for this game, so no idea if that sort of is filtered through, and maybe they're trying to make something else, or if they had any other game when they were working on to bring into this. But the thing is, it would be such a palate cleanser if they didn't release any sort of wrestling type game. They did a wrestling adjacent game, and that's why I think that they should definitely release WWE Crush Hour 2. Only because of the fact that Becky's been driving around in a monster truck.
Well, you see, you do say that, right? But there is a history of WWE having forthcoming products based on stuff they're doing on television for seemingly no reason. Now, the obvious example is, of course, Goldberg and Brock Lesnar. They started teasing that with the game because they knew they were going to end up having a program between the two.
Yep.
But I think the best example of all this, possibly the most pertinent example of all this, is when they started putting Enzo Amore in a shark cage because they were about to bring out a range of toys, including a shark cage. So, if you think there is no possibility whatsoever that the reason Becky Lynch is driving around in a monster truck is because they've got Crush Hour 2 tucked away in their back pocket, you have not been paying attention. There is every possibility that's what's going on.
To be honest, I would kill for another Crush Hour game. If you've never played it, it's Carmageddon, but just with WWE superstars. Like, how could you go wrong with that?
The thing is, WWE are in a kind of very similar position to some like companies, like say Marvel, for example, whereby they've got this like cavalcade, this endless amount of recognisable characters who everybody relates to, and their reluctance to go down really bizarre avenues with it always strikes me as a bit odd. Like, I know they brought out those like undead versions of things, and you've been able to get like slight, basically twists on the wrestling premise, but people know who these characters are, and we've not seen them in a Scooby-Doo adventure for absolutely ages. So why are they not just having a bidding war for the licensing rights?
Sorry, just a tangent there. The Scooby-Doo Adventures with John Cena and CM Punk Rock. Oh, mate.
CM Punk Rock,
bliss.
That's the Flintstones one, yeah.
Bliss, absolute bliss. And the thing
it was always the way they managed to get The Undertaker in them, and he would say one begrudging line of...
I mean, he's made an entire career out of that, hasn't he? But now he's riding off into the sunset, as it were. But the thing is, like, so we could look at this as being a very beneficial thing. Them stepping away to fix the problems of the past could be great.
We could.
But the thing is that I genuinely think we're just going to get another wrestling game, or even worse, we might just be getting an expansion to the previous game. So it will be a case of them coming in and being like, oh, we're adding in GM mode, which is great.
Empty arena mode.
Yeah, exactly. But it will just be something themed as like a big content pack that they're just going to wheel out and expect people to pay as like a standalone DLC. Like, it won't be anywhere near the upgrade or jump that we need it to be right now.
No.
It will just be literally a stopgap, or it will be something that is so filled with horrible microtransactions to make up the shortfall of them not having a full game that it won't be worth buying either way. I have no idea what they're doing.
Well, the thing is, this couldn't come at a worse time for them at the minute, because we've known since AEW launched that AEW are hoping to put together a wrestling game more in the mould of, as you say, like the old SmackDown games or WrestleMania on the N64, No Mercy.
Haven't they got the people who worked on No Mercy doing it?
Well, basically, they've done exactly the same thing they did with the promotion, in that they've gone and got the exact right people to make this the one thing WWE doesn't want to happen. Yeah. And while it probably won't end up being like the high graphical spec, or it'll probably not be as technically accomplished as a game, it'll probably be nearer to what wrestling fans actually want out of a wrestling game. And we saw with Fire Pro Wrestling, you don't need to have like this ultra realistic wrestling sim to appeal to wrestling fans. You just have to have something that recreates it. Well, that's the thing about Fire Pro Wrestling, was it proved that wrestling should never be in the sports simulation genre, like the way FIFA, NBA is. They try and recreate these games that are so much like the actual experience of playing that they've sucked all the fun out of it. Whereas Fire Pro Wrestling was, okay, right, actually wrestling isn't a lot of fun, but the arcade beat-em-up elements of wrestling are incredibly fun, like pounding someone until you can hit like a finishing move where fire shoots up out the ring. That's awesome, and they managed to like in one go like encapsulate precisely what has been missing from all of these 2K games. And yet WWE push on with this like, no, it's a real sport, damn it, we need to have a real sports feel to our real sports game.
But they'll do that, and then they'll completely fill it with utter silly bollocks, because they'll have like the big head cheat mode that was in last year, or they'll do like the undead like Triple H thing from 2 years ago. It makes tonally this game is all over the place because it doesn't know what it needs to be, and you can almost tell that all of these extra fun modes, the arcade and party mode style thing that have been added into the sprinkled over the last couple of games, that probably is the developer side rather than the WWE side trying to get their fun stuff. What are you going to say? You say WWE Mario Party, aren't you?
No, I've got it. What they're wrestling adjacent. You said extra fun. Barring the slightly sad news we had over the weekend, what is the extra fun wrestling equivalent? The adjacent product. It's an XFL game.
Right, okay, let's break this down, because the thing is, I would actually buy it, because I felt really sad.
Of course I would.
I was gutted that the XFL actually went down this time. Like, the first time that they did it, it was a joke. But they went and they actually took their time. They did all of the right, research. They did all those cool promotional packages. Yeah. I genuinely was more invested in that than I probably have been in any sport ever.
Yeah, I agree. And I was heartbroken to see mine and Andy Murray's favourite XFL team, the Baltimore Bastards, fold before they can win their Super Grand Slam Mega Championship. It was genuinely, right, it was good. It was way better than it had any right to be, and it was going to have a successful first season and a far more successful second season. You're assuming it's just, they've gone, nah, Let's not put that on a hiatus like every other sport. Let's just bin it.
It's just gone.
Meanwhile, tune into Monday Night Raw live.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that just emblematic? They had something that could have been a fresh and interesting product, and they could have done something different, and they chose to stick with it. I mean, we were having a discussion a couple of weeks ago about how the two companies, AEW and WWE, have approached the empty arena thing. AEW went for really interesting match types and pushing new talent in interesting, varied ways, the tournament bracket and everything like that. And then you've got WWE, who are just like, do you remember this guy? Please watch, because he might be back. Like,
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I really enjoyed Aaliyah versus Natalia. This is... That's not even a joke. I think we're going to have to wait with bated breath to see what this game ends up being. Yeah. But I would say if 2K didn't pull it out of the fire under difficult circumstances last year, I'm not totally sure how excited we can be for it this year. Don't get me wrong, if a good wrestling game comes out, then fantastic. It's a no-lose scenario, and I'm sure everybody who's working on it will be doing that. Like as they did last year, they'll give it their absolute all and do their absolute best with it. But this is the face I'm going to have when it comes out.
Yeah, I think that's something that we could all share. Jesus. I mean, so there we go. So WWE 2K21 hasn't been officially cancelled yet. I need to just clarify that, but it's rumoured that it's not going to be coming out given the circumstances that are going on. And you can understand with the current situation of the world that obviously manpower, developing power, all this extra time, everything's going to need to be changed and adapted to this new environment. But in its place, we are guaranteed to get at least a WWE branded game at the end of the year at some point. So as soon as we know more, we'll be sure to keep you posted. But until then, for all other wrestling news, stay tuned to WhatCulture Wrestling. Join us on the podcast. Adam, are you on the podcast later on today, or are you doing
I usually don't know until about 20 minutes beforehand.
Neither do I. I mean, wrestling happened over the weekend, so I assume that there's going to be need to cover it. But until then...
Wrestling happened over the weekend somehow. That's pretty much all you need to know.
Yeah, and if you want to chat to us further about wrestling, video games, and anything else, you can do so over on Twitter at RetroJ with a 0 for myself and for Mr. Clery.
It's at Adam Clery, Clery. The entire WhatCulture Wrestling family, of course, available to you at WhatCulture WWE.
Hope that you have a fantastic day, whatever you are getting up to. We'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.